Hola, hola clase, señora McNeely. Aquí hoy vamos a aprender de los mandatos, que son commands in español. All right, so commands in Spanish are called mandatos. Today we're going to focus on the usted and ustedes commands. So mandatos come from a tense called the subjunctive. You don't need to know too much about the subjunctive yet, except that it's used with uncertainty, right? So if I give you a command like open your books or take out a piece of paper, I don't necessarily know that you're going to do that. So there's some uncertainty around that action, right? And that's why our commands come from this subjunctive verb tense. So ustedes commands are used specifically with someone that you want to speak to respectfully. Maybe someone you don't know that well, someone who's in a position of authority, etc. Or just with a group of people, because as you know, ustedes is more commonly used than the vosotros form. So here's how we're going to form our commands. We're going to start with the yo form present tense. So like tengo, compro, etc. We're going to drop that O on the ending. And then in order to signify that we're using a command rather than just the regular present tense, we're going to actually use the opposite ending. So take the yo, drop the O, add the opposite ending. And by opposite ending, I mean for your AR verbs, you're going to add an ending with an E. And for your ER/IR verbs, you're going to add the ending with an A. You know, that feels really unnatural. It's like opposite day in Espanol. So let's do some examples here. The verb probar, the yo form, has a little stem change. It would be pruebo. Then we drop that O off. Our usted command on an AR verb, it would use the opposite ending, which would be E, right? So it would be pruebe. And then just like you usually do, in order to form the ustedes form, you just add the letter N, right? So pruebe, and then jueben. Jueben. Good. Comer would be como. We drop the O. It's an ER verb, so our opposite ending would be A. Coma. And then we add an N for the ustedes form, coman. So we're saying, hey, you, plural, eat, right? Añadir, add. We see recipes written a lot of times in the usted form. Añado is the yo form. We drop the O. It's an IR verb, so our opposite ending would also be A. So the usted command would be añada, like add the onion, add the potato, whatever in the recipe. And then ustedes, again, we would just add the letter N to signify that we're speaking to a plural group of people. Poner. Okay, here's where you want to be careful because we're starting with the yo form because the yo form tends to see some irregularities happening. For example, poner is a go verb, just like tango, digo, trigo, salgo, etc. Pongo, right? You want to be careful with all of those verbs. So we start with the yo form. Pongo, we drop the O, and then it's an ER verb, so our opposite ending is A. So the usted command becomes ponga. And then again, we add our N to make the ustedes command, pongan. And then, of course, there have to be some irregulars, right, you guys? So these are your irregular command forms. I call these the dishes because that acronym spells D-I-S-H-E-S. We just aren't going to quite do haber yet. We will get to it later in the subjunctive, but it can't be used as a command. So these are your irregular forms for dar. We're going to do de. It has an accent to differentiate it from the preposition de, which means of or from. And then the plural is den. No need for the accent there because there is no other form of den. Ear, just totally irregular. Think about the yo form voy, right? It starts with V. It's going to be vaya and vayan. Ser, to be, sea and sean. Not C and Sean. Estar, we're going to do este, accent on the E. Again, that's to differentiate it from the word este, which is a demonstrative that means this. And then estén. Estén also has an accent just to keep the pronunciation consistent throughout the verb. And then saber, we have sepan and sepan. Make sure you have those written down. You can write the meanings down as well if you need them. So these are the irregular commands, the singular, de, vaya, sea, este, sepa, and the plural, ustedes, den, vayan, sean, estén, sepan. One more little irregularity that's going to happen with these commands is that we are going to see cargar star spelling changes. Now we saw these in the yo form and the preterite. And now we're going to see them in every form of the command. So definitely the usted and ustedes forms, and then later when we get to some of the other forms as well. So the important thing that you need to write down here is that if a verb ends in car, like buscar, then the C is going to change to QU, busque. Notice there are typically no accents here in the command form or in the subjunctive form. If you put an accent on the E, then it's the preterite yo form. So you want to be careful with that, right? Because accents can change the person, they can change the tense. They also change the pronunciation of the word. So it's busque in this context, not busque. Pagar, gar verbs, the G is going to change to GU to maintain that hard G sound that we have in our infinitive, right? Pagar, pagi. Empezar, this one's a little funky because it has an E to IE stem change and then a ZAR spelling change. So the Z is going to change to C and the command becomes empiece. Now I put an N in parentheses here because you would just add in on the end to make any of these command forms plural or to address ustedes. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice here. It says complete with the correct ustedes mandato. I will do the first one for you and then the Edpuzzle will ask you to complete the rest. Number 1, ear. Okay, ear is typically irregular, right? Remember said, think about the verb voy, right? But it's a little bit different. It is one of the dishes, vayan. Escuchar. Ustedes, command form. Take the yo, escucho, drop the o. It's an AR verb, so my opposite ending. In the ustedes form, I would add en, escuchen. Hey, you guys, listen to the instructions, right? Mezclar. Mix the ingredients. Mezclen. There's nothing irregular that happens with that one. Notice it's not a car verb. It's a clar verb. Clar is not a thing that we need to worry about, right? So mezclen, because that C does not happen at the place of transition where you're dropping your ending off, then you do not have any kind of spelling change. Ser, another one of the dishes, irregular. The ustedes command would be sean, be patient, sean pacientes. Number 5, which we saw in the examples, has a little stem change as well as a spelling change. It would be no, empiecen. And then probar, a new verb in your vocab, it means to try the food or taste the food. Again, it has an O to UE stem change. Prueben.